Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 25th of February. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. It's wonderful to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Park Geun-hye is marking the beginning of her third year in office. We take a look back at the last 12 months and ahead to the challenges that remain in the first of a series of special reports. Grim reports emerge about the danger posed by North Korea. US experts say the regime poses a real and serious threat to South Korea and the United States and could potentially amass a huge stockpile of nuclear weapons over the next few years. Plus, Eurozone finance ministers have approved reform proposals submitted by Greece in order to gain a 4-month extension of its bailout. 2 years ago today, President Park Geun-hye was inaugurated into office. Her second year as president was certainly a turbulent one, from a ferry disaster, personnel failures, and a document leak scandal to a tax policy controversy. President Park herself having said this year will be a golden time for her economic and reform initiatives to bear fruit, will need parliamentary cooperation and public support more than ever before. Choi You-sun starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye began her second year in office, vowing to breathe new life into the domestic economy and improve inter-Korean ties to prepare for unification. But everything came to a standstill when the Sewol-ho ferry sank off Korea's southwestern coast on April 16th, claiming the lives of more than 300 people. The government's lax response came under fire, and President Park vowed to strengthen disaster management and revamp her administration. But her personnel selection and insufficient communication were criticized, with 2 of her prime minister nominees being forced to withdraw amid controversies. A document leak from the presidential office late last year and a controversial tax policy revision caused the president's approval rating to drop to an all-time low of 29%. Responding to public criticism, President Park has carried out a reshuffle and is expected to name her new chief of staff.
The question is whether the new chief of staff can mediate between the president, the political parties, and the people, while at the same time helping the president.
No expert seems to question the president's commitment to the country or her determination to improve the quality of living in Korea. They say for the Park administration to make progress, she needs to change her leadership style, give more authority to her cabinet, improve communication with the political parties and the public to promote the objectives of her reform policies, such as health insurance and public pension.
What's more important is for Parliament to lead discussions with the government and civic groups and set the framework for an outcome on the issues. If the presidential office takes the driver's seat, it will face a great backlash.
Political observers are unanimous in saying that now is the golden time for the president to better communicate to produce the desired results in an economic and reform drive. Choi You-sun, ARIRANG News.
A renowned US expert on North Korea says the regime could potentially possess a huge stockpile of nuclear weapons by the year 2020. And even as it stands now, an American think tank says North Korea's missile capabilities and military might pose a real threat not only to South Korea, but also the United States. Kim Min-ji reports.
North Korea could potentially expand its nuclear stockpile to 100 weapons over the next 5 years. This according to Joel Witt, senior fellow at the U.S.-Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University, who says Pyongyang is currently believed to possess between 10 to 16 nuclear weapons. He gives 3 possible scenarios for the North's nuclear expansion, with Pyongyang forecast to double its stockpile at minimal growth, up to 50 at moderate growth, which presumes the nation's nuclear and missile programs continue to develop at the current pace, and in the worst case, a 10-fold increase from now. The expert also called on the South Korean government to give up its unrealistic fantasy of unification and focus on reality, stressing that North Korea is a country that will soon have between 50 to 100 nuclear weapons. And such developments pose a serious threat not only to the Korean peninsula, but also to the United States. U.S.-based think tank the Heritage Foundation says the North likely possesses the ability to place nuclear weapons on its medium-range missiles, as well as the technology to miniaturize warheads. Saying that Pyongyang has an extensive ballistic missile force, the think tank added the country has deployed about 800 Scud short-range missiles, 300 Nodong medium-range missiles, and 50 Musudan intermediate-range ballistic missiles. It goes on to say that the North continues to develop ICBMs, some capable of hitting the United States. The think tank also noted that North Korea has deployed 70% of its ground forces within 140 kilometers of the demilitarized zone, making it possible to attack South Korea with little or no warning. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
A new poll has shown that the majority of Japanese citizens think Prime Minister Shinzo Abe should show remorse for the country's wrongdoings during the Second World War. Abe is set to release a statement on his government's stance in August on the 70th anniversary of Tokyo's surrender to the Allies. Hwang Sang-hee has the details.
The majority of the Japanese public says Prime Minister Shinzo Abe should uphold the apology for Japan's wartime atrocities expressed by his predecessors. A poll conducted by the Sankei Shimbun and Fuji News Network showed more than half of the respondents think a forthcoming statement by Abe should retain words like aggression, remorse, and apology used in the Murayama statement. Abe is set to release a statement this summer to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. The Japanese leader has hinted at moving away from the landmark apology issued in 1995 by then Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama, saying he wants the statement to reflect his government's position. But polls conducted by other Japanese media outlets, including the Asahi Shimbun, NHK, and Yomiuri Shimbun, have all produced similar results, that the Abe statement should carry words of remorse and apology over Japan's wartime role. So will the public sentiment be enough to sway the Japanese leader?
Then we're going to see a struggle between Shinzo Abe, the politician, who does what the majority want him to do, versus Shinzo Abe, the principled, committed defender of a proud Japan that has no more apologies for its past.
If Abe retains the expressions of remorse, experts say Korea could take it as a signal of his sincerity and an occasion to move forward in its current frosty relations with Japan. The bigger question is whether the Korean public will be ready to accept Abe's gestures. Experts say the government in Seoul will have to tread carefully to see if they have public support and move slowly on the issue. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
A Korean teenager who vanished in Turkey last month has joined the Islamic State militant group and is receiving training. During a parliamentary committee meeting on Tuesday, lawmakers quoted an official at the National Intelligence Service as saying the 18-year-old, identified by his last name Kim, was staying at an IS training camp. Now, various reports say he's highly likely to be in Syria. Kim had posted tweets in English and Arabic last October inquiring how he could join the extremist group. He was last seen on January 10th leaving a hotel on the Turkey-Syria border. Korea's consumer sentiment improved for the second straight month in February, but the improvement does not necessarily point to a strong recovery momentum. The Bank of Korea says its consumer sentiment index came in at 103 this month, up a single point from the previous month. The figure is lower than the level recorded last May, when consumer confidence was hit hard by the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. Still, a reading above 100 does mean optimists outnumber pessimists. The monthly index reflects the overall economic outlook of consumers, their living conditions and future spending plans. Now, life is tough for young Koreans looking to land the job of their dreams. A university degree only is often not enough to get you noticed by the big companies, so many people are looking to add extra academic strings to their bow. However, it is a double-edged sword because if you wait too long, you could be considered too old, even if you have just celebrated your 30th birthday, Kwon-swa reports.
It's graduation season in Korea. As a country where around 2/3 of people have a university degree, it's no wonder that it's tough for these fresh-faced graduates to land their dream job.
It has become more difficult to find a job in your field of interest.
It's hard. I'm interested in opening a startup, but I'm afraid as it isn't easy. But then again, it's also hard to apply for a job.
Despite the rosy outlook on the gradual rise in the number of people in work, it's a different story for young people looking to get their foot in the door at a good company.
Due to a limited number of quality jobs, people work part-time jobs until they find a high-quality workplace, or they just continue to search for jobs.
That's why the age of people who were never in the workforce before keeps rising. 1/3 of applicants at some 380 companies last year were in their 30s. Persistently striving for your goal is not a bad thing. That is, if age wasn't a consideration when it comes to getting hired. A job-searching portal says almost 60% of those responsible for hiring are reluctant to take on new people they consider old, men over 32 and women over 30. According to the study, more than half of Korean employees feel uncomfortable working with new people in those age groups, mainly because of Korea's hierarchical office system, which usually demands that junior employees strictly obey their seniors. But as Korean society also strictly values respect for the elderly, many senior employees say it's awkward to give orders to their older juniors. Kwon-swa, ARIRANG News.
Now, TVs made by Korean tech giants Samsung and LG are maintaining their lead in the North American and European markets. But when it comes to smartphones, it's quite a different story, not such a positive one. With the latest performance figures from Korea's biggest tech brands, Song Ji-sun reports.
Korea's high-tech TVs are solidifying their lead in the global flat-screen TV market. In Europe, the combined flat TV market share of Samsung and LG Electronics in 2014 topped 60%, meaning 3 out of 5 European customers bought Korean-made flat-screen TVs last year. While LG was at 3rd place in the US market last year, behind local producer Vizio, the two Korean tech giants' combined market share still amounted to nearly half. The trend is backed by the strong preferences of US customers. This year's Consumer Loyalty Engagement Index compiled by the US-based Brand Keys shows Samsung is the top TV producer with the highest brand loyalty for the 4th consecutive year. The firm surveyed over 36,000 American consumers on how willing they are to purchase products from the same brand. The Korean tech giants may be doing well in the flat TV market, but they're struggling to regain their grip on the smartphone segment. In the same poll, Apple kept its lead in the smartphone and laptop categories for the 2nd year in a row, a title once claimed by Samsung back in 2013. Strategy analysts' 4th quarter figures show that Apple accounted for some 49% of global smartphone sales, with its large-screen iPhone 6 models dominating the premium smartphone sector, while Samsung slumped to just 17%. Song Ji-sun, ARIRANG News.
Now, the world-famous musical Notre Dame de Paris is back on stage here in Korea for its 10th anniversary. The original cast has been reassembled for this very special occasion. But as our Im Yoon-hee tells us, some Korean performers are stealing the spotlight.
The musical Notre Dame de Paris broke records when it first came through Korea 10 years ago. And to celebrate, the original cast has reconvened in the capital to launch the start of their new world tour. The tragic love story set in the cathedrals of 15th century France is just as popular this time around as it was when it was first presented. The beautiful songs, combined with the intricate non-stop choreography, have proven to be an appealing and successful combination here in Korea. But there are a few dancers who truly shine in the spotlight, and that's the 8 Korean dancers and performers selected to perform alongside the original team, a world-class performing troupe.
There is no room for a break, and we dance until the end in the cathedral where the final act takes place. But it's really demanding. It's very draining to perform.
Demanding as it is, each member of the team pours all of their efforts into it, no matter what obstacles may lie in their way.
While I was ringing the bell, I slipped and pulled a muscle in my thigh. Afterward, I was afraid they would say Korean acrobats were weak, so I kept pushing forward and didn't show any signs of stopping.
From modern dance to ballet and even aerial choreography, the musical casts only the best of the best, and these 8 have proven that they belong on this team.
European dancers are taller, but I realized I make larger gestures and I'm louder. I was in charge of the biggest bell, and the original team complimented my work, making me proud.
The musical is set to be presented in Korea through the end of this week, with these dancers and acrobats shining through each and every performance. Lee Myun-hee, ARIRANG News.
Now we start our look at the international news with a positive development for Greece. Eurozone finance ministers have approved the Greek government's proposed reform plan, handing the debt-ridden nation a 4-month extension on its bailout programme. For more on this and other global stories we're following this hour, we turn to Eunice Kim at the News Centre. So Eunice, the response was swift, but many remain sceptical.
I would say that's correct, Mark. A valid starting point is how ECB President Mario Draghi described it, a sentiment also held by the European Commission and the Eurogroup. Now, the deal will have to be ratified by European national parliaments before that extension officially kicks in. EU foreign ministers via teleconference on Tuesday did approve the reform plans pledged by Greece that includes measures to balance its budget and also to offer help like free electricity and food stamps to the Greek poor, hurting in what it called a humanitarian crisis deepened by years of austerity. In a following statement, Eurogroup did call on Athens to further develop the current arrangement in close coordination with relevant institutions. IMF Chief Christine Lagarde voiced her concerns that there were still plenty of vital areas that required clearer assurances, including those related to pension, sales tax, and labor laws. Greece's $270 billion loan program was to expire on Saturday.
And Eunice, turning our attention to Britain now, and police in London now say they believe those 3 teenage girls who left for Turkey early last week have in fact crossed into Syria, presumably to join the extremist group Islamic State.
That's right, and despite a frantic search effort in recent days by both British and Turkish officials to keep the girls away, it appears it was too little too late. The UK's Metropolitan Police did say that it now had reason to believe the 2 15-year-olds and 16-year-old crossed into Syria without offering further details. The school friends, described as straight-A students, had left their London homes and flown to Istanbul on February 17th, one of them after telling her parents that she was going to attend a wedding. Shocked family members had made public tearful pleas to the girls on TV to reach out to them, but the BBC reports the trio likely entered Syria 4 or 5 days ago after at least one of them had made contact with a female IS recruiter and, quote, jihadi bride via Twitter.
Yes, the families must be suffering terribly, not knowing where their daughters and they're just young teenage girls, aren't they, really?
Right.
And the extremist group's campaign of violence continues. IS militants have reportedly abducted dozens of Christians in Syria's northeast.
Right. Various monitors on the ground are saying that IS fighters struck the town of Talmir just before dawn on Tuesday and unleashed horror as they went door to door, raiding homes and grabbing people, including women, children, and the elderly. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says at least 90 Assyrian Christians were kidnapped in the pre-dawn strike and that thousands of others fled from the assault. The abductions came after the U.S.-led coalition launched 11 airstrikes over the previous 2 days against IS targets across Iraq and Syria. Kurdish forces are also said to be holding their line on the ground, Mark.
Well, thank you for your reports, as always, Eunice, and we'll see you back at noon.
Sure thing.
A good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Games. Now, one of the biggest issues with the preparations of the Games is the lack of corporate sponsorship. And now the president has stepped up, requesting for more firms to sponsor the event. Now, on Tuesday, President Park Geun-hye talked about the current status of the Pyeongchang Winter Games and stated its urgency for more corporate sponsors in order for the event to be successful. Now, she added that the Winter Olympics is a great opportunity for companies to increase their brand value and encouraged more firms to sponsor the event. Now, so far, only 4 Korean companies have pledged to sponsor the Games, totaling a mere $229 million. Now, Coca-Cola might be known as a major soft drink company, but they also host the annual Coca-Cola Sports Awards, which honors the top amateur athletes here in the nation. And on Tuesday, the top award went to none other than Son Yeon-jae. Now, the event, which has been running since 1995, named rhythmic gymnast Son Yeon-jae as the top amateur athlete for 2014, citing her incredible gold medal finish at the Incheon Asian Games, a first for a Korean rhythmic gymnast. Now, she beat out Greco-Roman wrestler Lee Hyun-woo and Lee Na-young, who claimed 4 gold medals in bowling during last year's Asian Games. Now, some things just never get old, like bacon and the National Winter Sports Festival, which is kicking off later today for the 96th time here in Korea. With the opening ceremony taking place at 10 a.m. at the Yongpyeong Resorts in Gangwon-do Province, 2,632 athletes from all across the nation will come together to compete in various winter sports. Of course, highlighting the event will be figure skating as Park So-yeon and Kim Hae-jin continue their rivalry, while short track and speed skating will garner a lot of interest, despite Lee Sang-hwa pulling out of the event after ending her season early. Now, come June, the 2015 Women's World Cup will take place in Canada, where the Korean women's national football team hopes to grab the trophy for the first time. And if you're here in the nation and want a chance at seeing the trophy yourself, you can. But just like Katy Perry once sang, you can look, but you can't touch. Now, starting today, the Women's World Cup trophy will be showcased at the Paju National Training Center for the national team members, and again on Thursday for the public at the Lotte World Mall in Songpagu District. Meanwhile, the national team will begin training today as well as they continue to prepare for the big event in June. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Upper provinces, including Seoul, still has a moderately high levels of fine dust, but it should return to the normal range before noon. But the whole peninsula will be covered by lots of clouds throughout the day today, and it will be a rainy day for some parts. It will rain from Jeju this afternoon, and central parts of the peninsula, including Seoul, will also see light rain falling tonight at 9 p.m. So till then, we'll have dry and mild day today. The daytime high here in Seoul will peak at 9, feeling more like early spring this afternoon. And as for the other regions, the daytime high here in the capital again will peak at 9, and Daegu and Gwangju will rise to 11 and 10, and Busan will top out at 11 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island and Daejeon should both see a high of 10, and Dokdo peaks at 7. Now tonight's rain will bring down the temperatures quite a bit, and on Friday we'll have a freezing morning of low of -6 here in Seoul. Well, that's all for the weather. Have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you very much, Jiyeon, for the weather. I guess we'll have to enjoy the mildish weather we have today before it gets cold. Well, there are plenty more stories online on our website. It's also worth checking out our smartphone app. All the latest news on there, including programs from ARIRANG TV. I'll be back with Ojin Ju in around 90 minutes' time with Newsline at noon. So until then, goodbye.